All right, we are ready to go. We are on air. So welcome everybody to IAedChat Live. It is Sunday, September 25th, 2016, and we have a live show tonight focused on instructional coaching in the state of Iowa. So we are bringing you the latest and greatest of educational topics each month, and we are very pleased to be able to connect with you tonight. We found out last month, just before our live show, that Blab had closed down, so we were using Google Hangouts. And then we found out this week that the Google Hangout version that we were using has switched over to YouTube Live. So we are, again, trying out something new, and we hope that you guys are all able to join us this evening. We have a few very special guests this evening. All instructional coaches from across the state of Iowa through the IAtlc Teacher Leadership and Compensation Grant. So we will introduce those teacher leaders here just shortly. We're extremely excited to engage with you in a conversation tonight. This is a live stream again, and we're going to be taking questions from the audience, and we also have some questions set up that we will start off with, but we hope some questions start coming in from our Twitter feed. We will be monitoring that as well. So feel free to ask questions that you feel appropriate for this conversation focused around instructional coaching, and we will get those to our guests. So don't forget to use your voice, and I will start with an introduction. I am Andrea Townsley from Benton Community Schools, and I am a curriculum PD leader and instructional coach through the IAtlc grant. And this is my third year in that position. So I'm very excited to talk to a couple of my colleagues and a couple of other instructional coaches from across the state. Colin, you're muted, buddy.
Yeah, sorry, here we go, back on. My name is Colin Wicken. I am the Dean of Students, and tacked onto that with an interim associate principal role this year for Benton North High School. So excited to be here and talk to our instructional coaches tonight, and I will pass it over to Dan.
Hey, good evening, everybody. I'm Dan Butler. I am an elementary school principal at Epworth Elementary School within the Western Dubuque School District, and this is our third year of the Teacher Leadership and Compensation Program, so we're very excited about that. And my instructional coach is with us tonight. That we will introduce Greg in just a couple of minutes, but I'm excited about that as well, and always happy to engage with all of you in this conversation, in this live show that we do each month. So what I'd like to do is we're going to have each of our guests introduce themselves, and we'll have them just tell a little bit about their roles and maybe their path in education. So I will start. Anna, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I am Anna Upah. I am the instructional coach at Atkins Elementary, which is part of Benton Community. So I work with Andrea and Alex. This is my first year as an instructional coach at Benton. Prior to this year, I taught first grade here at Benton for 4 years. Prior to that, I was a reading interventionist at Panorama. So also prior to this year, I was a model teacher at Benton Community for a year.
Fantastic. Thank you, Anna. Welcome. We're so glad to have you. And let's kick it over to Alex.
How's everybody doing? I'm Alex Olson. I am the instructional coach at Benton Community Middle School, High School. This is my third year as an instructional coach. The first year of the TLC grant, I was actually an instructional coach at Norway Elementary in the Benton Community School District. So I have a unique perspective of working with preschool teachers all the way through, upper secondary teachers as well. So it's been quite a journey. I've learned a lot, and thankful to learn from Andrea and Anna as much as I can, and really happy to be here tonight.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex. And let's turn it over to Clint.
I'm Clint Heitz. I'm an instructional tech coach from Bettendorf High School and Bettendorf Middle School. Previously taught for about 10 years Pleasant Valley High School, but came over to the Bulldogs here and now work with Colin Wicken. It's my first year as an instructional coach, though, so learning a lot from our other coaches who have been in this for 3 years now.
Great. Welcome, Clint. And finally, we'll kick it over to my man, Greg.
Hi, thanks for being there. My name is Greg Deutmeyer. I serve as the instructional coach here at Epworth Elementary School, which is one of the elementary schools in Western Dubuque. This is my second year in this role. Prior to that, I was an instructional coach at Cascade Elementary. And before jumping into the IC role, I served as a special ed teacher for 5 years.
Fantastic. And again, welcome to all of our guests. We're very pleased that you are here. And obviously, we've got a wide variety of experiences with some of the secondary, some at the elementary, and then some of both. So we will definitely have some various lenses and kind of a broad perspective of this instructional coaching role and what it looks like within different settings. So we're very pleased about that. And I think we're ready to get started with some questions. And I think, Colin, you've got the first one, my man.
We're fired off. So you guys can choose to tackle each other in terms of who answers first or whatever, but what Iowa TLC model is your district utilizing for teacher leadership?
I think at Benton Community, I can't remember what model, 1, 2, or 3, but it was the instructional coaching model. For our first 2 years, we had model teachers. This last year, we have switched and revised our TLC model to now include data team leaders, and that's been an extremely positive change for our district, and we've been having some wonderful support from Grant Wood AEA and getting some of the data team process underway here at Benton, and it just seems like it's been a really, really good fit. And working on the grant writing committee with Andrea and some others, it's wonderful to see how we're cultivating leadership from within with Iowa teacher leadership.
Over in Bettendorf, we have 3 CPDs, curriculum professional development folks, who really have the vision of the district in mind as they do their work K-12. And then secondary, we actually have 3 coaches high school, 3 middle school, and I'm the only traveling coach at the secondary level. And our elementaries are staffed with several traveling coaches who work between, because we do have 5 or 6 elementary schools. So all that built together from our staff, and following that general guideline, we're all experienced teachers, history in the district. It's been going very well. Our staff have really latched onto our coaches and have responded excellent and wonderfully to the PD that they've been able to offer. So I know definitely as a new member of that, I'm very excited to see and to get to be a part of what they've already built.
And in Western Dubuque, we kind of have 3 different teacher leader roles. The first, we have instructional coaches at each building, and the second, we have mentor model teachers in each building, which this is a fun year with that, especially as last year we were really hammered on to what's the instructional coach role look like, but now we have some guidelines as far as like what's mentor model teacher role look like and how do they work with the instructional coach. And we're doing a lot of beneficial things with that this year. And then the third level is we have PD facilitators where they may lead a book study or a collaborative group at our district-wide PD days.
Anything to add, Anna, or we covered with that, with Benton's role?
Alex did a great job answering that question. I think he covered it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, we'll keep moving forward. And the next question that I have for all of you, and we can chime in as we need to, and we certainly don't need to follow the order. You guys, like Colin said, can kind of wrestle and argue for it. But talking about different instructional coach trainings and professional development that are out there, what route has your district chosen, and what supports have been available as you've gotten going, whether it's your first year or it's your third year or whatever that may be?
I know in Bettendorf, we've been using the new Teacher Center training. So we actually just traveled out to Grantwood AEA for our first session of the cohort here through their teacher leader support staff. And it is a great opportunity to meet new instructional coaches throughout the state. After that initial 2 years, our coaches really have developed into their own kind of PLC. They continue to meet with our CPDs, curriculum professional development leaders, and they meet with our administrators on a regular basis. So we have ongoing PD in that form and through conferences, but that first initial training really is that 2 years of working with the new Teacher Center through Grantwood AEA.
At Bent, we also started with New Teacher Center as well, and that was extremely beneficial when kind of getting the ropes of having some of those collaborative and reflective conversations. That was the bulk of our training in year 1. Year 2, we had some gym night training through Grantwood AEA. We were also able to learn from Pete Hall in a session down in Iowa City. I think in between that summer, between the first and second year, the majority of our team also had an opportunity to work with Elena Aguilar. I think that was in Western Iowa, in Peyton, I believe. And then this year we are looking at doing some Diane Sweeney training up in AEA 267. So we've really kind of run the gamut in terms of, instructional coaching gurus and philosophies. And really at Benton, I think we've taken bits and pieces from all of them to make it work for us and make it work for our teachers. And it's been a great experience working with all those people.
To kind of piggyback off of what Alex just said is going on at Benton, I really feel like, but also with what Clint just said, we are our own PLC. So I am constantly learning from the other people on my team. I, being a first-year instructional coach at Benton, we haven't started or gone to our first student-centered coaching lab session in AEA 267, but I am constantly learning from the other coaches that I'm working with. I feel like I'm in a coaching cycle when I go to those meetings with my team. And so that's also been really beneficial. I'm also super excited about some of the instructional coach forums that Grantwood AEA has set up for us, just to collaborate with other coaches in the area and see what other districts are doing and what supports they're reaching out after, and what I can get my hands on as far as another perspective.
And so Diane Sweeney was kind of tossed around there a couple of times, and that's something we did last year up at our AEA. And one of the coolest things that came out of that was it was like coaching labs, and basically you do your role in front of a bunch of other colleagues, and at the end they give you feedback, all positive or all factual statements. I noticed, I saw, and then they question a little bit as well. But that was probably one of the best experiences for me as far as seeing other people do it, as well as getting that feedback from others as far as how I was interacting with the teacher and the questioning where I was leading her with the questioning and so forth. Other than that, like Western Dubuque, we are fans of Jim Knight, so anytime his name pops up on a training, we try to book ourselves there.
So lots of great trainings available across the state, and definitely a wide variety of trainings that schools are doing to help prepare these instructional coaches. We do have a question. Let me see if I can find it. Kathy Parrott. She says, I would love to hear more about the model or demonstration role that with the classroom teachers and that schools are assisting schools this year. So it looks like modeling or demonstrating that is happening in schools. I'm not sure with teachers in the classroom as a coach, or if there's other types of modeling with coaches going on in classrooms with your instructional coach role. But if anybody has anything to add with that question from the Twitter feed, that would be great.
I I know with Bettendorf, I've been really proud of just getting to watch what has grown out of our coaches already. This past Wednesday, I believe it was, we did a professional development where we modeled by using formative assessment with our staff regarding PLCs and standards-based curriculum. So we took that formative assessment, we used it to inform our professional development. We made that very overt to our staff so they could see what it is we were doing, how this models what they should be doing in their classroom. And then our lessons were differentiated based on that formative assessment. So on a broader scale with professional development, we have the opportunity to model that for our teachers. But then, of course, you do have that opportunity to get in the classroom as well in Bettendorf, where we will not only go into classrooms and model teach and co-teach and team teach, but we like to elevate our teachers by videotaping model teachers, and we have a site that staff can go to. So if they can't get into the classroom right away, they can watch model teachers showcasing their strategies and their skills.
We have another question from the audience. Let's see, from Allison. Where do instructional coaches get money for needed resources? So books, trainings, etc.
Allison, as a first-year coach, I'm kind of wondering the same thing. I feel like what I would have spent in my classroom, you know, whether it be on something for my first graders to make for homecoming week, like foam fingers, or books from Scholastic out of my own pocket, all of those expenses at this point have just gotten replaced with the things that I'm purchasing for teachers, whether it be resources or books to grow professionally myself.
And the TLC program itself, the Teacher Leadership Compensation Program, was a grant funded by the state. So that's another resource we do have available to us. So when we proposed these positions, we proposed these models that we were going to use, the grant money that came in was not only built to pay for staffing, but also for continued professional development resources. So some of that grant, I believe, is still there. And Colin may speak better to this, but I don't know what districts have done, or one of the other folks that are here, what districts are offering, or if they're relying on just the grant. As a first-year teacher too, just like Annie there, I'm just hoping there's something. Otherwise, I'm making it work, and I've been greatly supported otherwise.
Yeah, to my knowledge, it's all a part of the, teacher leadership and compensation grant. From my understanding, the first year it's a grant, and then it becomes part of your formula, and things for professional development just come out of that pot in terms of how schools are utilizing that money.
Yeah, I'll just jump in real quick with that. And when you wrote your grants, part of that, a portion of your dollars, you were obviously needed to dedicate toward professional development, and then that just kind of became part of your funding formula, and it's all what your district is willing to support within that area. Where we've been extremely fortunate in Western Dubuque, if there's something going on, we're usually going to go. I mean, we've had the opportunity to send multiple groups of people, at least 2 groups of people, to Lawrence, Kansas, to get training directly from Jim Knight, whether it was high impact instruction or his intro instructional coaching stuff, and then all of the other things that are available. But it sounds like all of the districts here represented have had pretty ample opportunities to get professional learning and different training involved. So
I would agree with that. It sounds like the districts represented here have been very supported in the training, at least. But thank you to Kathy for clarifying. So her discussion was more on the model teacher, kind of like the demonstration teacher role. Are any of the districts that are represented tonight using that still? Western Dubuque or Bettendorf? I know Benton Community went away from that. So are either of you guys using that model teacher role still?
So we still have a mentor. They kind of have 2 roles, mentor / model teacher. And the model part's kind of what we've been redefining as far as what does that actually look like. So far this year, it's been a lot of videotaping. during our PD, they will be assisting the instructional coaches as they deliver instruction from Jim Knight's high impact instruction. And over the last several weeks, it's been getting a lot of video from them actually utilizing the strategies, both when it's working well as well as when it's like it didn't work so well, and those being incorporated into our PD time so people can see that this is stuff that's actually working within our building. And those roles are also open to if we are trying something new where those classrooms are an open door where people can go and observe at any time. But we haven't really gotten much with that or done much with that.
Yeah, going back to kind of what Andrea said at Benton, we kind of went away from that model, but I know for a time there we had looked at similar to what Greg had spoken to earlier with coaching labs. Diane Sweeney has what are called learning labs, and that was kind of a structure that we looked at potentially as a way to utilize the model teachers to showcase different instructional strategies. But I think the bigger picture is in that sort of model, it's really important to have tight alignment between your professional development and outlining instructional strategies that you want all teachers to be using, and then training those model teachers in that, and then providing them as a model. So when I think of that model teacher role, it has to be very systemic, and there have to be structures in place for that to really get the most bang for your buck in that situation.
And in Bettendorf, the model teacher piece is still evolving and growing for us. I know in the last year we did do a co-lab setup. So with that, we did require new teachers to observe model teachers and vice versa, including some post-observation discussions. Currently this year, we do still have the videotaped pieces that we refer staff to. We try to facilitate collaboration and pair up new teachers, even veteran teachers, with our model teachers. But that's a work in progress as to what we will ask of our model teachers this year. And I'd expect to see them show up in our professional development quite a bit. We've started to lean towards how can we build them in so we have more voices and we can really celebrate and elevate those members of our TLC team.
Clint, I heard you talk about requiring first-year teachers to observe model teachers. What's that look like with the district as a whole? What does coaching look like in your district? Is it required in your districts, or is it something that is optional for teachers? Tell us a little bit about that.
Good question. I guess part of my response was coming from personal experience. Being secondary level, I'm less familiar with what the elementaries are doing. I do know from the colleagues I've gone to NTC with, they're on a completely voluntary model so that they are connecting with staff members and building relationships early on to facilitate that. At the secondary level, we don't require our staff to work with coaches. However, new teachers are required to mentor with our instructional coaches. So that is kind of a hybrid situation. After the first 2 years, there's no required work there. But when it comes to model teachers, there isn't a required setup for them either. We do encourage some of those relationships, but we try to make it something that staff want to participate in, something that they respond to the relationships as we build rapport. So hopefully that answered your question there, but it's a mixed hybrid for us right now.
In WD, we are pretty much optional. We're a choice, except for those partnerships with the instructional coach and the mentor model teacher. That's kind of like a have to, because we're both in this role together, and it's a safe place for us to practice, as well as just for us to practice our role using that mentor model teacher. I will say that on Thursdays, we do kind of live in the gray a little bit, where I lead or facilitate a lot of grade-alike discussions around like tip goals or RTI things, etc. Each month we have a weekly focus, and those are kind of mandated that teachers come. It's not like a coaching cycle or anything, but those are often on-ramps to coaching cycles where things will pop up within those conversations that end up filling my schedule as an instructional coach, which has been very beneficial the last couple years.
I would say at Benton Community, instructional coaching or participating in a coaching cycle with a coach is optional system-wide. However, in certain buildings, building principals have come out and said, at some point in the year, I expect you to work with an instructional coach because this is something we can all benefit from, collaborating with peers. So for us as a system at Benton, it's optional at this point, but at certain buildings within our system, like I said, some building principals have said, at some point, I don't care what it is, you can decide that part, but at some point, I would like you to work with our instructional coach.
Anything else to add to that? I'm not sure. It looks like we have, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question here from Olson that says, do any of you instructional coaches co-teach with colleagues?
You just had to bring her into this, didn't you? That is my sister, Ariel Olson, Esterville, Iowa. Yeah, on occasion, I've done some co-teaching with some different teachers. And, you know, again, our coaching model, with it being optional and invitational, we're really a needs-based and support system for teachers. So that can mean a lot of things and a lot of different things for a lot of different people. So in some of those situations, there are some co-teaching that needs to happen or some co-teaching that does need to happen. One example from last year was utilizing screencasting software. Jing is what we used, and that was a way I came in and showed kind of the tech side of what the teacher wanted for like a reflective vlog and journal, and that teacher utilized kind of the talking points and the criteria of this is what I want out of it, this is how it will look, and I really focused on how it would look with the technology.
I am super excited to be doing some co-teaching in the near future with one of my teachers. We had a meeting and kind of set up what her goal was throughout for our cycle together, and we're going to be co-planning, co-teaching, co-assessing, and co-analyzing the data that we collect from the lesson. So yes, I would say definitely co-teaching is something that I'm really looking forward to as part of my role as an instructional coach.
And knock on wood, I'll be getting there as well. That's, as a first year coach, I realize that may be something, at least personally, that comes down the road. A lot of this first year will be building those relationships and that rapport, because that's a big step to allow somebody in your classroom as a co-teacher that way. But I know our current coaches have done a great job of getting in the classroom. Even our curriculum of professional development leaders, the CPDs who work K-12, they're team teaching as well. We have one who I believe works in the math classroom. They're going to do a 3 or 4 week stint working with folks. And we have others who they would go in and do 1 day a week and kind of help out with specific roles. So team teaching is a very valuable asset if you can build a relationship to do that. Because not only does that allow you to support a teacher and provide a model or try new strategies, but you learn a lot from the teachers that way and what they're doing that you could share with others. And to be honest, there's a selfish element of getting the fix of working with kids that you do have to give up as a coach, you know, when you're 100% out of the classroom. So there's a little bit of that I really am hoping for, just so I can get back to working with the kids for a while too.
You got to get your kid fix in when you can, and it's great when you have that opportunity.
Going along with the responses there was a question from Lori Donald, and she had asked, what has been your biggest obstacle of switching from teacher role to that coaching role? Because that's a jump, and there's certainly a number of differences there. So whoever wants to take that one, what's your biggest obstacle making that transition from teacher to coach?
Well, I think in the first year, it was so hard because you're jumping into a role and you really don't have a vision for what that looks like in practice. You can read all you want about it. You can go to all of these trainings, but when it comes down to the nuts and bolts of the everyday of what that looks like, it took a long time to really understand what that vision was. So then once you understand that vision, then you can build your skill set accordingly. So that took a lot of time. And in my scenario in particular, that first year I was at our elementary, at Norway Elementary at Benton. And then the second year I moved to our middle school, high school, which for me, I kind of looked at it like I had 2 first years because I had to start over the second year with a whole brand new group of teachers. But what made that so invigorating was because I had the skill set and the vision of what coaching looked like, and all of those things where if I had the opportunity to do this again, this is what I would have done differently. I actually had that opportunity, and I really felt that I made the most of it.
You know, it's interesting to see how the challenges change with each new start of the cycle. A lot of the coaches who started off with TLC, from my understanding, they're still in their roles. And it's just lately that you've had new coaches being brought into the fold. So I think when TLC started, there were a lot more hurdles in defining a role and what is it you're supposed to do, what should people expect of you, how do you make this whole thing work. But I'm sure, hopefully Annie will back this up, but I feel like I got spoiled because the coaches did a lot of the hard work for me by laying out, this is what it looks like, this is what we can do, this is the kind of relationship we can build. So now when I've come in as a first-year coach, I'm building those relationships, and I've gotten a lot more feedback from teachers more swiftly than I've been led to expect. They've been very willing to cooperate, collaborate, innovate, and really work together. So my biggest hurdle, rather than, oh my gosh, how do I build all these relationships, was how do I manage all this stuff that I can do? And how do I, personally bounce between buildings and classrooms and PLC meetings and professional development and just really wrangle all these threads that are coming together for me in a new role. So I got spoiled. They did a lot of the hard work of showing what we can do. And I'm getting a lot of the fun stuff as I start in on it.
I completely agree with you, Clint. I feel so fortunate to step into a building that a really talented coach built a really great foundation in. And I work with these awesome teachers who want to work with me and want to be coached or collaborate, because that's what they've been doing with the super talented coach that whose role I stepped into as she went back to the classroom. And I just can't, I hope she's listening so she can hear this, because I haven't had a chance to tell her, but I appreciate that so much because, like you said, she did a lot of the hard work. And I just feel really thankful to step into a building where the culture is that we work together and we're going to collaborate. And these are all the wonderful things that we can do when we do collaborate. I think, again, when I think about one of the hardest pieces of stepping into this new role is and working with so many people who want to be in a coaching cycle. I guess when I stepped in, I thought, okay, I'm going to spend the first however many months of school building relationships. Whereas, yes, I need to be building relationships, but people have said, oh, I want to work with you on this right now. I didn't expect to be really in cycles this soon. And I thought I would have more, full PD training days on what coaching is supposed to look like. And that hasn't really happened. Andrea was my coach for the last 2 years. So I constantly think, what would Andrea do? And what would Andrea say in a situation like this? I think the other piece that's been more of a challenge for me is the constant reflective question, am I giving the teachers what they need from me? And figuring out that as much as I do value Andrea as a coach, because she still coaches me, and Alex coaches me, and the other coaches on our team, like I said before, I'm in a coaching cycle with all of them. I don't have to try and fit their mold. What works for them, and I still need to try and find what works for me. And that I can read Jim Knight or I can read Sweeney, but I still have to figure out what works for me and what works for the teachers that I'm working with, instead of trying to fit a really specific black and white mold.
Kind of to piggyback off that, one of the hardest things for me was like just the difference in personality of teachers and being able to like jump from one teacher and be what that teacher needs me to be, and then move to the next teacher and be what they need me to be. And just the time it took me to build those relationships where I could successfully say, like, yes, I am providing this teacher with what they need. There's still times I kind of question myself if I'm serving everyone as well as they should be served. So it's kind of an ongoing struggle in my head as far as what can I do to be what each individual teacher needs me to be to take them the next step forward.
I think another one of the areas that, I find, especially early on in our journey with TLC, was how to effectively collaborate with building administrators. I would really say in that first year, we were really hands-off, and we didn't want to be seen collaborating with the administrators for fear that we would, damage trust and cross that line between, supportive and collaborative and evaluative. But as we've kind of grown and developed, I think we've become better at working kind of strategically on kind of just some general building wide goals and how we can support that and support teachers in moving forward to some of those goals.
This is a perfect opportunity to jump in with one of the questions that we had on our script, and it was about that instructional coach principal partnership that you just kind of started talking about a little bit, Alex. And if you would, group, chime in and talk about what that looks like. Some of you are in your first year, where others have been in the role for a couple of years. And what does that collaboration look like between your administrator and trying to get the work done that you need to get done within your buildings? So whoever wants it, jump on it.
This is something that Dan and I actually got to present on a few times this summer, which was pretty cool. I think the big thing as far as my relationship with the principal is us being on the same page and having the same vision for the school and where we want to go with it. However, how we get there is completely different. And one of the things that we talked about a lot last year was how Dan could provide on-ramps for me for easy, like, in coaching conversations. And there was at one point he gave a quick stand-up meeting about the power of questioning, which got a conversation going in an easy way for me to just pop in with teaching, what do you think about that? And from that simple little stand-up meeting, there were 3 or 4 coaching cycles that took place all around how our teachers are questioning, and we're utilizing video, and practices were changed for the better, which was pretty cool. So I would say anytime the principal could help the instructional coach getting in with the teachers, I think it's a huge benefit. If we're all talking the same language, we're on the same bus going to the same place, we just have different roles of getting specific as far as getting how we get there.
I coming into this role in this position and watching those before me, my predecessors who started, I think one of our big blessings we had was administration and district administration who really believed in the process and really believed in the power of teacher leaders. We had the great opportunity to work with Jimmy Casas, work with Darren Schutte, and all of our other administrators. And even as our administration has changed, we've been lucky to have Joy Kelly step into a position that has allowed her to work with us much more closely. Colin Wicken here, one of our own co-hosts, he's been a great resource for us. So it helps when you have administrators who truly believe in the process. And I think another great thing is when you have an administrator who trusts the coaches. When we work on professional development, both at the middle school level with Lisa Reed, at the high school with Joy Kelly, I know in my experience, they will talk to the coaches and ask, what's working, what's not working, what do you see as a need, and how can you guys help facilitate professional development to meet that staff need around our building goals. And there's been just an open, honest trust from those administrators to say, all right, do your thing. You guys have your job for a reason. And it's been awesome to see that. Not all districts, unfortunately, have that same mindset. But I know at Bettendorf, it's been a very supportive district where there's a lot of trust and a lot of professional trust going on between our staff and admin.
Clint, you forgot to mention that my wife is an instructional coach for us. So, no, just kidding. Yeah, she is and a coach for us. But no, she's part of a great team with all you guys. So thanks for.
Yep, I gave her a shout out too. Yeah, on the tweet deck I did. Yep, but you paid me to give you a compliment anyway, so I thought I had
did.
to. Yeah,
I did. You were supposed to say that live though. That was tomorrow.
Oh, I did hit mute.
Clint, we have a question for you. Lori Donald asks, when you talk about building the vision, and I think other coaches can step into this too as well, but when you talked about building the vision, how do you share that vision of coaching with classroom teachers, or how do you plan on doing that?
One of the things I've always said is I'm a shameless promoter. I've learned that working through my PLN, that if there's an opportunity to share, if there's an opportunity to work with folks, don't miss it. Don't let that go by. I'm a strong believer in elevator pitches, have something ready. So, there's always that kind of opportunity, but more than anything is just the relationships I've built with the teachers already, that we can have those honest conversations about what did they need, what are they observing, and I can just be authentic with them. Here's what I can do. Here's what the other coaches can do. I'm a big advocate for sharing another coach's expertise and saying, hey, let's use this person. But those open, honest conversations allow you to authentically share that vision and what it means for our students and for our staff to find success. So the better relationships you have and the connections you have, the easier it is to share that vision and to connect it with the personal goals and responsibilities of the staff members you're talking to. Because really they need to see the value for them and for their kids. And whatever I can do to help them reach those goals, that makes those conversations and sharing the vision a lot easier.
I guess I have a follow-up to that one. Have you done anything, and anybody, systemically to kind of share that vision of what coaching is or what coaching can be?
Just to follow up on that, our coaches, again, making my life easy, they started off by creating a coaching menu. And I know NTC has a few documents sharing what coaching is, what it can be, but they made that district friendly. They made that teacher friendly and showed, here's what we can do. And that was made very public. Something during professional developments, every time new teachers are onboarded to the district, they are very good about marketing through any opportunity we have. Here's how we're more than happy to support, but also soliciting opportunities from staff to observe them and share what they're doing. It's just constant communication. We use the hashtag BetPride to share successes. We use our district bulletin board and email, anything we can just to connect with folks and let them know we're here and to share that. And I'd love to beg, borrow, and steal what anybody else is doing too.
Not to brag, but we will. So one thing that we created within the district is, and this is credit to Kelly Simon and the initial coaches that we had within the district, and Greg is one of those people, but developed this one-page document that was just coaching, what it is and what it is not, just a plus and minus. And the brag part comes in, not to brag, but to brag. But Jim Knight uses this in his presentation content, so it's kind of sweet. But that gave our teachers a really strong idea of how they could be utilizing these coaches and what they will be doing, what they will not be doing. So for example, they're not evaluative, you know, and on the opposite end of that, no, they are partners, and they're going to not come in unless they have an invitation, that kind of stuff. So just probably about a 10 bulleted item of what it is, yes, what it is not. And then in the bottom, which is important, is kind of those gray areas, and where that gray comes in, because there's different parts where it's not always going to be clear cut. Like Greg's still going to be asked to do bus duty. All right. He's still going to be asked to fill in for a teacher when we're down a substitute, but just as long as he's not the first call that we make on that, and he's always the one that's filling in and things like that. So I really think by defining that from the get-go, that really helped us to promote what our vision of this was going to be. And really, I would say we've upheld that for these 2+ years as we're beginning our 3rd year here. So
to add on,
that has been extremely helpful.
I think that document helped us keep the role of instructional coach what we wanted it to be, and not allow it to be hijacked into something that we didn't intend, as far as, you know, always being the first person to get subbed, or there's a group that needs a group of kids who need to be pulled to do a little intervention with, let's have the instructional coach. It was all laid out where in that document it preserved what we felt the instructional coach role should be, and without that, going from building to building, that role would have looked a lot different.
How often do you revisit that and those different things, and how has that evolved over time? Because I know at Benton, you know, initially that very first year, we did a lot of the same things that were mentioned, you know, what is coaching, what is it not, the coaching menus. And now we're at a point where we feel like our coaching practice is evolving and we need to repaint that vision again. And we're just wondering, you know, if anybody is continuing to do that and how that's evolved for them.
Alex, I think we haven't like really adjusted too much on it, but there's been a lot of times where we might be going down a certain path and we bust that out to kind of, I don't know, it's almost like our constitution, quote unquote, to make sure, are we doing what we're supposed to be doing? This year, we're launching a new, or FAA, where we're trying to get targeted interventions for kids, and instructional coaches were pulling the kids to do the initial assessing with them, and we were wondering, like, are we going down a gray slope? And the more we looked into it, we determined we were okay, because after that initial assessment wasn't going to be ongoing, that we were working with that teacher to provide that intervention. And in the end, it was their goal to be working with that teacher, not our goal to be teaching that intervention. So I guess we haven't changed it a lot, but we have, like, in times of, you know, should we be doing this or not, gone back to that and use that to kind of help us make that call.
Thanks, Greg. That helps out.
So I know we have a couple of questions from the audience, and I think a couple of them piggyback with some questions that we have too. One of them would be it's from Robin, and she says, what are some suggestions for starting up a coaching cycle? A couple of you want to have some ideas for some of our instructional coach viewers of ideas to start up a coaching cycle. That would be great.
Well, one thing that we've always done from year one at Benton is we survey our teaching staff every 30 days. And that just gives us a basic barometer of, you know, who's willing to, you know, have us come into their classrooms, whether it's just in for, you know, a quick drop by, or, you know, even during their prep time. And some of that information we use to determine if people are interested in coaching cycles. And then from that information, we'll go to the teachers and just dig a little bit further and say, I see you're interested in coaching, and you would like to be in a coaching cycle. Is there anything in particular you'd like to work on? So from like a systemic standpoint, that's been extremely beneficial. But I think the most important is building those relationships and, you know, doing those things to get to know them as a teacher, but as people as well. And I think a lot of that is kind of molded from Elena Aguilar's philosophy. of understanding why people got into the profession and what's, important to them in their teaching philosophy. And that really is the crux of it. And building those relationships and respecting those and being willing to be a servant leader.
I agree with what Alex said about I, as a first-year coach, really used those survey results to know who wanted to work with me and what they wanted to work on. Another thing that's worked for me as a teacher in the past, when I wanted to be in a coaching cycle with Andrea, but I didn't exactly know what I wanted to focus on, she would come in and tape or record me video and gather some video of a lesson, and immediately after watching that video, I could pull something from that lesson and say, okay, I need to work on this, whether it be questioning or whatnot. So video has been a really powerful tool for me as a teacher, and I hope to be able to do that with some teachers soon. But someone talked about it earlier, and being a part of some of those grade level team meetings, or I guess I'm a part of all of the grade level team meetings, but one of my coaching cycles coming up this week came from a follow-up conversation from one of those grade level team meetings. So really listening to teachers and having some of those follow-up conversations have been very beneficial for me in order to figure out what is it that people want to work on and how can I support them? What do they need from me?
And I have to piggyback off of something Alex had mentioned, and I know I had mentioned the word before too. You're never going to get away from the fact that relationships are going to be the key. I'm a strong believer, whether it's working with students, whether it's working with staff, whether it's working with parents or community, you need to build strong connections. You need to build strong, trustworthy relationships that are authentic and really built around the heart of what we do as a profession, and that's help kids succeed. And you can never go wrong starting there. And those relationships could be as simple as striking up a conversation in service at the beginning of the year, starting with the staff that you know as a veteran teacher that you can go back to and say, hey, I'm in a new role. I trust you. I'd love your help in getting this started. So the first year coach, that's what I relied a lot on. And sometimes just marketing too. Whenever I started up a conversation, I usually tried to end it with, can I come watch you? Can I come sit in your room? Sometimes simply because I've never sat in on another content area at a certain level before. And following that up, like Annie mentioned, with good feedback. I haven't delved into recording very much yet, but to send an email afterward with a very objective, hey, I noticed this strategy. I noticed the students responding this way. I'd love to hear more about it. Please tell me something, or can I share this? Really goes a long way. And it takes out the evaluative statements of I liked, or maybe you should work on, because that's not what we're there for. We're there to help teachers support them in their goals. So to say, hey, here's a strategy, here's the result, I'd love to know more, that gets the conversation flowing so that you can start that cycle when they're ready. You built the relationship first.
So we have, I know, one question that kind of mirrors one that we have. Lori Donald talked about some of the hardest things that you're experienced. So if anybody wants to talk about what are some of the peaks, maybe the low points that you've experienced and how you've gotten through that, or some of the the peaks or the high points and the valleys that you go through as an instructional coach, and then maybe what's going on with your job right now? Are you going through a struggle that you need support with, or kind of how do you get through those peaks and valleys?
The coach team itself has been a huge support right there. Just as much as we value confidentiality and trusting relationships for the teachers to show them support and allow them to fail forward and be comfortable with that, coaches serve that role for each other as well. One of my greatest benefits and things that I've really enjoyed is that at the high school level, when I'm working in that building, our coaches share an office, and it's very easy for us to share our struggles, share our successes, which help us actually build and collaborate on other relationships to help each other out. So dealing with the peaks and valleys, other coaches are huge. because you do have a confidentiality yourself that you can rely on, and they coach you also. So that's been a valuable support. I think the biggest successes I've had are just watching teachers do awesome things and be able to be a part of it. I think the biggest valley for me has really been, hoping I'm doing enough, hoping I'm reaching the people who need to be reached. And, I mentioned before, trying to juggle all those threads and be everywhere at once. I always worry that I'm not getting where I need to be. But I just have to remind myself that that's part of the job, and you continue to do the best you can and move forward there.
Yeah, I think it's so crucial to have, those conversations with your colleagues and your team, and, working with Andrea and Anna and Lori and Sherry Collins and Cinda Mailer before Anna was with our team. Having conversations every week with those people has really moved me professionally and helped me through some very difficult times that, that we've had in just getting things built from the ground up in terms of teacher leadership. But I also think our Grant Wood support from Erica Vosmick has been extremely beneficial. She's a school improvement consultant, and she usually meets with our teams during our Friday meetings, and she is very insightful, and that's something that definitely helps because you get an outsider's perspective, so to speak. Even though she's an honorary member of our team, I would gladly say. And then the other thing too, one thing we try to build in during our team meetings is just time to have a coaching book study or watch a video of one of our coaching cycles and kind of reflect off of that, and even role playing. If we know we're going to have a difficult conversation or aren't sure how to help move a staff member along, we role play some of those together and just get ideas from everybody. And really that collective effort really pays off in the end.
I agree with what you both said as far as leaning on other coaches. Andrea, I hope this isn't going too far, but one of my first kind of valleys in this role, Andrea actually lives behind me. So not only was she my coach last year, but she lives in my backyard. But I called her and I said, will you come over and sit on my front porch and, drink maybe one beer with me, and we can get through this together, or coach me through this situation. And so that's completely what she did. And so I can't say enough about how much I value my colleagues and the people on my team to get me through the valleys, because there are so many peaks, and I've had a lot more high points than I have low. But I really appreciate Alex and Lori and Andrea and Sherry and Cinda and Jason and Joe and all of their support to move through the peaks. And Andrea being in my backyard when I need her.
Okay, how much did she pay for that?
She paid me nothing.
Not one bit. And I don't literally live in her backyard. My house backs up to her backyard.
Okay, Clint, you have to come clean now. I didn't pay you anything, remember.
No, you didn't, no. Your wife threatened to beat me up if I didn't say it. No, and I was actually going to jump in and give kudos. Folks like Jen and Kim Rojas, Pete Brook, and I mentioned that small group there. I wish we could share some of those conversations we have, because it's very interesting. We model things that I would just love for our staff to see, whether it be, identifying what it is we're struggling with, questioning each other on how to approach it. But even our veteran coaches looking to those who have taught shorter amounts of time than them, or I've gotten to actually work with a few to snowball ideas. It's amazing how much we benefit from each other when we're completely different backgrounds, science, math, foreign language. I'm English. I would love to share those conversations. And, role playing is a great tool, but it's hard to get the authenticity of what we can actually break down and figure out in our little office there. So, it's been a great thing. And so I'll give honest kudos. Your wife is awesome. If nothing else, she's fantastic. But I go back again. our administrators are a big piece of that. Colin is one, Christy Kleppe, Joy Kelly. There's that open door policy too, and they respect our confidentiality piece. They respect that we aren't going to share anything about our staff that we shouldn't, but they're more than willing to coach a good conversation. They're more than willing to help us reflect on things, and especially when it comes to how do we help deal with certain types of students. And Colin's got the brunt of that, and Joy had the brunt of it last year dealing with some of those challenging kids. And we value that input. So admin are strong supports too. Even though we can't tell them everything, they work well within those parameters to help us succeed as coaches. That was free.
So I feel like this hour has gone entirely too fast. So I think it's very evident that we have a lot to talk about. So maybe we can do another chat sometime in the future, because I feel like there's so many great things that were shared tonight, and seriously, just not enough time to share it all. So what we will do is maybe put this conversation on hold for a while and maybe come back to it, because there is certainly a lot to be shared. So I want to thank personally the guests that we had tonight. So Anna and Alex from Benton Community, and Clint and Greg, both also thank you guys, Western Dubuque and Bettendorf, for hanging out with us tonight for an hour. And I will let's see who's sharing resources. I'm sharing resources. So I know, sorry guys, I know that there is a hashtag IAtlc. There is a lot of great stuff shared on that hashtag for instructional coaches in the state of Iowa and around. There's also a really great chat on Wednesday nights, hashtag EduCoach, that you need to check out as an instructional coach. They have some great ideas. They do book studies, and just a great way to build community with other instructional coaches. And then I don't know that I have the exact link, but if you Google TLC Agora Moodle website, there are also some really great resources on there. And then certainly follow Anna and Alex and Clint and Greg on Twitter, and keep up with all the great things that are happening in their districts.
Thanks for having us, folks. It was fantastic. Really fun.
Yeah, thank you. This was a great experience. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to, let us know at Benton. We'd love to help you guys out.
Right. I'm constantly looking for other instructional coaches to connect with. So follow me on Twitter or message me if you want to talk further.
I'm going to echo those same sentiments there. So give me a follow on Twitter. And I think we heard in the last little segment how powerful a network of instructional coaches are, both in the valleys and the highs. So
I will say I'm just going to pass it off to Dan. I'm a big keeper of time. So close her out, Dan.
One more resource I want to share. I need to do this because it just released last week, and Greg has developed an instructional coaching podcast, and they have an episode that they just dropped, I think Tuesday, but it is called the Instructional Coaching Corner. You can find that. He does have a website online. You can just Google that, and also you can find it and search it in iTunes. It's about, they're shooting for about 20 to 25 minutes. Their first episode went about 35 minutes, and he and Jenny Hillebrand, another instructional coach within our district, just talk shop. And they talked, this first podcast, they just talked about the power of teams, but just a very natural conversation. I would encourage all of you to take a look at it, and all of our followers and listeners here this evening, because I'm not just saying this because he's my guy, but it's good stuff, very good stuff that we can all kind of take and reflect upon. So Instructional Coaching Corner, check it out. All right, I'm going to close this up, but again, thank you so much to everyone for sharing your thoughts on IAedChat Live. It is always great learning with all of you. And thank you very much to our IAedChat team, Andrea Townsley and Colin Wicken, just two great people that are getting it done and make me look very good. So I really appreciate them so much. And of course, thank you to our panel of instructional coaches across the state that we had: Anna Upah, Alex Olson, Clint Heitz, and Greg Deutmeyer. Just great people, and we really appreciate your perspectives that you brought to the table here this evening. Be sure to follow some of your new friends you met here tonight and visit IAedChat, the hashtag IAedChat, to continue the conversation throughout the week. And we will be back next week with another great topic. Until next time, be the change. Good night, everybody.
Night. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.